The silver spoon clinked against crystal, and the entire room froze mid-laugh. To my son, Brandon, the full Lake Tahoe property, all 17 million of it. Champagne flutes erupted. Brandon soaked it in like a standing ovation he'd rehearsed for years. I stayed near the window, a cream envelope pressed against my ribs, smiling with a stillness that felt surgical. The family attorney, Mr. Vance, shot me a warning glance. I met his eyes and whispered 4 words that cut through the applause like a razor. You have no idea. My father's smile hardened. Veronica, don't. I let the silence stretch until it ached. For 12 years I'd held this estate together. Permits, tax filings, midnight roof leaks, contractor fistfights. Brandon's business trips were 5-star vacations with padded expense reports. Every time I delivered results, Father praised Brandon for protecting the legacy. Loyalty is invisible until it walks out the door. 7 days earlier, I'd walked into Richard's study with our best quarterly earnings ever. My projections. My vendor renegotiations. I asked for 8% equity. He laughed like a lamp had told a joke. You have a bedroom, he said. Not a seat at the table. You are my asset, not my partner. I left without a word. He assumed I was crying in the garage. Instead, I unlocked my office safe and pulled out this envelope, unopened for 3 years, the wax seal still intact like a dare I'd finally accept. Now, Brandon was already pacing the terrace, phone to his ear, pre-spending his inheritance on a yacht name he'd clearly picked out weeks ago. Richard soaked up handshakes from county officials. I stepped into the center of the floor. The envelope in my hand felt less like paper and more like a loaded chamber. Brandon sauntered over, whiskey in one hand, that smirk everyone mistakes for charisma. Don't embarrass yourself, Veronica, he muttered. Dad did the right thing. The right thing? I tilted my head toward the envelope. Already planning the victory lap? He leaned against the antique sideboard. I already improved the property. The boathouse. Converted it into a poker lounge. Cigars, bourbon, the whole setup. Needed it ready for tonight's celebration. My stomach turned cold. The boathouse isn't empty. He blinked, irritated. The old groundskeeper? I had her relocated this morning. Eleanor Mays lives there, I said, voice dropping. Grandmother promised her a home for life after her husband died on this property. Brandon shrugged. I promised my friends an after party. I put Eleanor in a motel off the interstate. She cried a little. It was awkward for everyone. Across the room, Richard clinked glasses with a judge. She's 84, I said. She's a liability, Brandon replied, stepping closer. And so are you. Dad and I talked. We don't need you running numbers anymore. You can keep the apartment over the stables for 30 days. Then find somewhere else. He patted my shoulder like I was a broken lamp. Go wipe down the bar in the game room. Stay useful. He walked away, already back among the admirers. I stood there breathing through my teeth. Not rage. Something sharper. Clarity. They'd finally shown me exactly what the estate meant to them. A toy chest, not a trust. I slid my thumb under the envelope's flap and pulled it open. The sound was small, but it cut through the champagne chatter like a scalpel. They thought I was holding paper. I was holding a verdict. Excuse me, I said, voice calm and loud enough to reach the kitchen. Before we toast anything else, there's an administrative matter, the property deeds. Mr. Vance's pen froze mid-signature when I spread the documents across the mahogany sideboard. Deeds, I said, filed with the county 3 years ago. He read the embossed stamp, then looked up pale. Richard, these are legitimate. My father lunged forward. Impossible. Evelyn left everything to me. Evelyn transferred everything into an irrevocable trust, I said, sliding a second page forward. I am the sole trustee. I've held the keys for 36 months. Brandon laughed, but it cracked halfway through. You're bluffing. I flipped to my personal ledger. Crypto transfers. Forged signatures on 3 loan documents. Asset shuffles through a shell LLC in Nevada. I kept copies while you two were applauding your own brilliance. Brandon reached for the pages. You stole? I prevented a federal fraud investigation, I said, pressing an eviction notice to his chest. You leave. Eleanor returns tonight. The boathouse is hers by noon tomorrow. His grin disintegrated. He yanked a folded document from his jacket pocket. Power of attorney. Signed October 12th. Overrides your trust. I slid a hospital intake chart into Mr. Vance's trembling hands. October 12th. Intubated, sedated, medically restrained after a stroke. She couldn't sign a grocery list, let alone a legal document. The attorney swallowed hard. She couldn't have signed this. Richard grabbed my wrist. Veronica, fix this. He's still your brother. I pulled away slowly. You called me an asset. Assets don't crawl back into chains. Black SUVs climbing the long drive. I didn't call the family, I said. I called the FBI field office in Sacramento. Those forgeries were used as collateral on a fraudulent loan for $3 million. By the time the agents reached the front door, Brandon was handcuffed on the terrace, still holding his whiskey. Richard stared at the wreckage like a man who'd priced his own daughter as inventory and couldn't understand the receipt. Eleanor Mays rode back with a federal escort, her cardboard suitcase in her lap. I handed her the boathouse key, then walked out into the cold Tahoe air, breathing like it was the first honest thing I'd ever owned. Later that week, I signed a lease in my own name. No marble floors, no champagne flutes, just a window that faced east and a door that locked from the inside. If you've ever been treated like a tool instead of family, hit like for Winds of Thought. And subscribe, because the quiet ones are the ones keeping receipts.